This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worst take. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Jake, I've been after the Browns game. I've been thinking of one thing, and about the future of this defense. And my one question, and I've been dying to ask people this: what happens if Martin Emerson and Grant Delpit? That's just real life for them this year.
Yeah, that's the thing I've been trying to talk about with expectations for folks. We carry a lot of baggage, right? Like, that's not a secret that Browns fans carry a lot of. You took this guy as a highly selected pick, and you think because they strap on the cleats and put on those orange pants and brown jerseys that they're just not that talented. It is a world, and I think I even talked on your show about this recently, where these guys just play to who they are, their potential, and they fit in a system that allows them to thrive. And I think we're watching it, right? So I don't think, why would it be weird if a second round pick, highly drafted second round pick, 2 first round pick corners and a third rounder who's clearly a diamond in the rough in the third round? Like, I don't think it's a crazy world in which these guys play really well all year. Now, we know week 1 variance, and let's see it over a period of time and all that fun stuff. But like, hey man, it's not weird to see these guys playing well because they should be playing well. They were selected as if they were going to be playing well. So if that is the world in which we live in, where Martin Emerson is a continuation and maybe an advanced continuation of what he was last year, you add that in to getting Denzel back playing more so like a 2021 version of Denzel. That's really 2 good corners. You can tell, I can tell, I'm sure you could too, watching the tape, that Greg Newsome was extremely comfortable in the slot this year, playing very loose, free, and excited about it. So that stuff was really good. And then, you mix in all of that comfort with the layers of what he's trying to do defensively with the front that's actually really good, and you can see where this turns into something really special. Now they got to string it together. The weather's got to be right, and you can still do that stuff, but they have a lot of very talented players on defense. And like I told you when we were together again last time, they should be really good. They should be really good.
Yeah, especially because it's not like Martin Emerson came out of nowhere. And even with Grant, who has been up and down at times throughout his NFL career, this was a situation where Grant had showed this at the end of last year. We weren't necessarily 100% confident that he was going to come back and build off of this, because we had been there with Grant before, where there's like a couple good games before the end of the season and it doesn't necessarily carry over to the next year, where it looks like they really found what they need to do, where they need to put Grant for him to be able to shine. And you talk about him, he 5 stops in that game, a TFL, a PBU, and a pressure, I believe he had. So you get guys like that who can produce like that. People draft Isaiah Simmons hoping he can do something like that, right? Like that's the hope with some of these hybrid guys, that the stat lines they can put out. So, if you get that, it's interesting. And also something that Tomlin brought up in his presser, I don't know if you've heard it, where he talked about, hey, they got some program guys over there, right? Martin Emerson, Grant Delpit, where it's their 3rd, 4th year here, and they start to figure it out, or they start to figure some things out. And that's one of the things I think it's new for Browns fans. We're so used to having to Hail Mary our rookies, right? Like we need them to be good right away. We absolutely need them to play well. They're integral to what we need to do. But then you look at other teams, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, they usually don't have their rookies play that key of a role, right? They usually come in and they figure out what they need to do. They figure out their role. And like in year 2, 3, we hear about them. And that's kind of something similar that the Browns have gotten going on since 2020, is they got a lot of program guys. Sione Takitaki is a perfect example, even though I don't believe he was drafted by Barry. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong on that, but he's a perfect example of a dude who just got into the program, right, and found a way for him to stay in the NFL. Now he looks like a legitimate, like, useful piece for the Browns.
Yeah, Tomlin mentioned it. It caught me off guard. I talked to Corey Kennan about it yesterday a little bit. About that exact fact of what Tomlin was talking about. He just was bringing up, he brought up Donovan first, and mentioned Donovan being a program guy. And you just don't say it that way because in the NFL, you don't look at it that way. But, in college ball, you only get 4 years at a maximum, really. You can get a fifth if you don't think you're ready right away. But, like, these guys are older, man. Like, David's been around the team for 6 years. Miles has been around the year. What's this going to be, year 6 or 7 for him? Like, these guys that you view as young still because they arrived in a relatively fresh time period, they're all older leaders now. So they should be able to handle the stuff that's in front of them. I mean, Tomlin did a great, and I love Mike Tomlin. I'm not afraid to admit it. I've said it before, man. I don't really care. I'm not in the business to please Browns fans. I'm trying to teach them and analyze, but like, love Joe Burrow as a quarterback and love Mike Tomlin as a coach. Like, it sucks that those two dudes are sitting in this division, but nonetheless, I just really like the way they go about their business. And Mike Tomlin to me is just the ultimate leader. And just the way he phrased it, talking about David, how David has been a developmental Browns player, brought him along. He arrived. He wasn't great. He wasn't a great blocker. Now he's a 2-facet asset for them. Donovan is just a great niche player, I think is the word that he used for this team. And then you talk about, again, Miles and Denzel's getting older. And then you mentioned Talk. Yeah, Talk was definitely a Dorsey pick, but that doesn't matter because the thing that we have seen the Browns do too much is regime to regime. And we know they have hopped regime to regime. Is now that they've settled on a group, they didn't flush the babies out, is what the phrase is, right? You come in, you reset the cycle. That's not my guy. We're going to let that guy go. I think they did a really nice job of retaining some young talent that had a chance to be good, and now they're developing. So, yeah, I mean, you're excited about Sione because he's a guy who's obviously he got his chance last year to play Mike in a pinch because of the injuries, and they're like, okay, this guy can punch out and cover a little bit. He can come up and run fit and thump. Like, we like this guy. He gets hurt. He has an unbelievable recovery. He's ready to go week 1. And I'm telling you, he's playing the same level, if not better than AWalk in the middle of the defense. So, like, that's an exciting thing. And if you get those guys to develop, if you bring along the big names, but you bring along some of the other names, the fringe guys. I know we don't like Jordan Elliott, but he's been with the Browns for a while, and he actually is looking more competent. Not that he's ever going to excite you as a Browns fan, but he is going to do the minimal the sort of average part of the position he can handle. And, that's really cool, man. That's what you get when you get continuity in the front office and the head coach. You usually will see a unified vision. And then you just tell yourself, are we missing something defensively? Is the puzzle pieces there, but we're not putting it together the right way? Let's get a different voice in. Let's do the same thing with specials. And they had a great game outside of the opening kickoff. And we can maybe formulate something special here. And I think they're in the middle of that. They found the one puzzle piece in Deshaun on offense they thought they were missing, and then they rewrote who's putting the puzzle together in those 2 other phases. And it's easy to see, like, these guys looking different under a different leadership spectrum in those 2 phases. So that stuff's really exciting, man. It's really exciting because they're talented. Like, and that's the thing that I think we've all been frustrated with for a while is they're drafted high. They're good players. Now let's get the most out of them. And I think they took a great first step.
They did a great job filtering guys in and out, right? When they had these changes of, okay, which Dorsey guys stay, which Dorsey guys go, because not a lot of the guys that they let go we're really heard about, right? Like, I don't really know of one that they let go at the time that they did that people were really frustrated on. Like even Jarvis Landry, that was the right time to get off of that. Odell Beckham seemed like the right time. Well, it seemed like you just had to at that point. Baker Mayfield, it goes without saying. And then they found the guys that they say, hey, look, they had Sione Takitaki. I believe his first year, he played like edge or something odd like
he was
that.
A walk-up Sam. They would play him as that third backer and let him be more of an edge container. They didn't ask him to do much. Just go up and hit people and set an edge in base look. So yeah, it's been a great development.
Yeah, so they just done a great job figuring out what they can do with certain people. Wyatt Teller's another example of that. Didn't really blossom until he got under Bill Callahan. But let's talk about this matchup coming ahead in Pittsburgh. And I was listening to you, and I think you have a similar thought of me when it comes to this. Everybody's talking about the DeJuan Jones, TJ Watt matchup. For whatever reason, I'm like, I think you might be able to like smoke and mirror that and be fine. Like, I don't think that's something you have to be too concerned because the way TJ wins, it might make it just a natural, difficult thing to do on DeJuan. The one I'm worried about is Highsmith and Jed Wills. Like, that's the one where I'm like, I don't really love what I saw from Jed Wills in week 1. It's week 1, but Trey found a way to get inside on him, and we know that Jed can way too easy to get beat inside sometimes. I heard you talk about how he's not really helping himself sometimes too with his technique.
Yeah.
Do you look at that Alex Highsmith matchup, and are you worried? Do you think that Tomlin's looking at that as where he wants to target instead of necessarily the obvious one that people are looking at with Dewan and TJ?
Well, I think they are. Listen, yeah, TJ's TJ. There's gonna be moments Dewan will want back. I think Dewan is his baseline is really strong for handling TJ because TJ is going to beat most people with speed. And as a quarterback, man, I'm fine with that. If I know that my right tackle is going to get beat in predictable pass situations where I'm 5-step, I'm getting to 9.5, 10 yards. If he's going to win the high side, man, I'm okay with sliding out of the pocket to the right. That's fine with me. What I don't like is unpredictable drop back to drop back, where you do cut him off on the high side, and then he long arms you through the chest or bull rushes you, and then you end up in my lap, or he sets high and spins back inside, and that's how I end up in a sack. What Dewan has to do is give Deshaun some predictability. Now, he did that. Between him and Jack, the right side was fine. I do think, listen, it's TJ Watt. He's like right, maybe trailing Miles by like a step, right? He's special. He's great. So you are always worried about a rookie getting a chance to play that. But I do think Dewan's skill set as a pass blocker, run stuff is inconsistent for him. Hell, sometimes he's going the wrong way. He's got to fix that. I think that drives the coaches a little crazy, but I think his baseline should be able to handle more of TJ's stuff than like Hudson. And honestly, TJ gave Jack Conklin a fit too, because Jack Conklin's anchor is not great at times. I think the anchor part of what Dewan does is one of his best, but he's just a huge human. And if you try to run by him up the field, the arms are so dang long, he's got a chance to get a piece of you and just enough so the quarterback can step up, right? Jed is a concern. Alex Highsmith got a contract this offseason. He can flat out play. He can play. So that is a concern. The oversetting, the hips and shoulders turning parallel so that the guy, he's setting so high that his quarterback doesn't feel like he can naturally slide out of the pocket to the left by escaping laterally. But then he's also not giving his quarterback a cutoff inside. So if he does step up, the guy's got an easy way to lift his inside arm and then be right there at the quarterback too. So Jed's got to figure out, man, if I'm going to struggle somewhere, where? How do I compensate? What do I need to do? I need to make sure my drops are not as deep as the quarterback so that I give him a chance to escape. To answer the root of your question, though, Quincy, both of those guys are good. That's Pittsburgh's strength. The 49ers stayed out of a ton of those situations and did a good job. And even when they did put themselves in those situations, TJ got 3 of them and a couple fumbles. So that's not great. What you have to do is chip help, and the Browns will have to do that. They'll have to give it back to that side or a little maybe 2-point tight end that chucks them inside a little bit. They'll slow it down. But you're talking about what's their weakness. I think Tomlin and the gang over there knows we don't need to help the edge. Those guys are going to get their pressure. We have to find ways to create interior pressure. Without Cam, starting Keanu, maybe Larry's back this week there, Ogunjobi, I don't know. But it's not a great group, especially with the Browns' formidable 3 inside. I think they're going to have to get a little creative and try to create some interior pressure with blitz stuff. So my hunch is they're going to try to create some havoc inside. The 49ers did a great job of hitting a couple big plays, taking advantage of 2 big mistakes by Kenny Pickett. And then all of a sudden it was 17-0. It go into half, I think 20-7. And then they hit a 75-yard run right out of the half that broke the game open. And at that point it's over, right? It's just over. So I think that the Browns, I don't expect it to be a blowout. It should be a tighter game than that. They're going to have to really make sure they help secure those edges, but they have to run it well. They have to run it well, and they have to give Deshaun creative ways to throw it that alleviate those 2 headaches that are sitting on the outside. Among the best, it's like Miles and Za'Darius, 2-point. It's the same thing. 2 really talented guys coming off the edge. So you better come up with a solution for it. And I don't mind. I don't know how you feel about it, but I don't mind having chip release delay guys because that gives you a secondary outlet on throws that can be an advantageous thing if you can take advantage of that as a quarterback. And to be quite frankly, put it here, I would like Deshaun to take a little bit more advantage of that. There were times in that game on Sunday that he needed to just, hey man, you're not going to rewrite history in one game, right? You want to hit the chunk plays. You want to push it down for. You want to get your name back. I know what Deshaun wants to do. But just take what the defense is giving you. It's a too high league now. It's a too high predominant stuff. Teams are going to give you a short down. They want to prove that you can take it. So take it. and then hit your big throws, right? Couple of good ones that could have been hit, right? And you got a 250, 300-yard game. So he just has to take what the defense gives him. And trust me, that Pittsburgh secondary is not very good. So you just got to take the holes in the defense. And San Francisco did a nice job of that. So I expect him to do that too.
Yeah, and that's the thing I looked at when I was looking at the offensive side of the ball, reviewing them this week. My big takeaway with Deshaun was sometimes it would just do him better to just take what's in the offense, right? Like there was a play where the Elijah Moore play, right, where he ended up trying to throw the ball really late, after he's had the scramble and he can't even get the ball there because he's getting tackled while he threw it. That was open from pre-snap. Like it was there. You knew it was going to be there. Ball should have been out by the time he turned the corner to run that out. And instead it's late. It's not even getting to him. You get that ball to him, he probably gets 30 yards. We saw how dynamic Elijah Moore is if you just get him the ball in his hands. And I think sometimes he thinks he's in Houston still, right? Where it's like he had to do all of that in 2020, right? Like he was throwing to Chad Hansen. He had to make it happen. If it wasn't him, it wasn't going to be nobody that was going to make that happen. And it might be just a little bit of an adjustment for him. Maybe there's some nerves because, he hasn't had a big games that everybody's cared about since like 2019 because nobody cared about any of those 2020 games because they were like 4-12 and they were never at any point a good team. So, it's been since 2019 so I bet he's itching to have a big one, right?
He is.
And
he's itching. I want to say that he's itching for it because when he was doing that in 20, the league was a little different. I saw a stat today that talked about last year, the least amount of 20-yard air throws since 2003 happened last year. So teams are making quarterbacks earn it. Joe wants to chuck it up the sideline. It's not working, right? Josh is throwing deep balls, trying to find answers. It's not working. Just take what they're giving you, and you will eventually take so many profits that you're going to have a chance to throw a shot or two downfield. So I really believe that Deshaun was jacked up again, wants to prove everybody wrong, wants to make it happen in one play. And it's like, hey, just settle in, man. Settle in. Take those flat routes. Take a check down, man. Those things add up. Like you said, you've got guys who can make people miss in space. Just take what's there. And I do think a little bit of that game, there were some people, like there were a couple throws on the play that got Jack Conklin hurt. Jed got beat. If that's a completion on a dig, there was another one where he kind of pushed out of the pocket and tried to throw, but his feet got real wonky. I think the pressure, the lack of trust yet in some of the left side, and really I'm talking left side, I'm talking Jed. He's got to try his best to forget that because there were a couple throws I know he wants back. And if you, like I said though, if you hit that ball to Goodwin off the little fun gadget play, if you hit the deep one you tried to put to him, but you had to throw it off your back foot because you guys didn't block it up right. He's looking at a 300-yard game, right? And another one too. I know you probably looked at this, Quincy. Maybe you've done your film breakdown stuff too. That interception throw, they did a nice little shotgun wind boot where they set it up, and Posich just doesn't get enough of DJ Reader. And if Deshaun is able to sit in the pocket for just literally a split second longer, Moore is wide open on the backside dig that he's trying to throw.
It's like Moore was there and he's tried to get it back while he's running across his body, and it wasn't going to happen. He shouldn't have let go of that thing at that point, especially in the rain. Sure. Like, hey, that's a tough throw to even make in good weather.
But if you watch it in structure, if he could have sat in the pocket, it's so wide open. So he has to get out of the pocket. Then he tries to turn his hips and he shouldn't have thrown. He should have just taken 5 or 6 yards and run. But
I saw like 5 times where it was like, hey, what he tried to get was there if he just waited for it in structure, right? Or if he just hit it in structure on time. It was there, but he tried to hit it out of structure. And sometimes it's like, hey, I know that people are going to tell me he makes great plays out of structure, and that's cool. Like, I want him to do that, but I also want it to be necessary when he does it. And you're not going to get 100%, okay, he did our structured thing when it was completely necessary rate, but you want it to be closer to 80 than it was last week, where it's like, it felt like he was kind of breaking out the pocket, doing stuff out of structure, out of habit at times. You don't want to fall into that. That's when we saw that's when you start to see quarterbacks start to fall back on bad habits. So, just something to clean up there for Deshaun in that game. And I think that'd be interesting interesting to see if he does clean it up. We know that Nick is Nick. There's not really much to talk about there. New helmet, like new helmet, new swag.
Surprise, new swag. Yeah.
Because he was wearing the Riddell for a while, right? The new Riddell that everybody has out there. And then he pulled out the shut. And I was like, okay, Nick, with the pacifier mouthpiece. He gonna come out with the arm sleeve and just be a completely different guy.
Yeah, man, I love it. I love it. I'm the map pacifier, all that stuff, man. Like, yeah, I was into that, man. Good, right on, Nick. You should look good, feel good, because you already play good. There's no doubt about that. And he played good once again, man. That's for sure.
Yeah, easy, almost 6-yard per carry game for him against one of the NFL's better defenses. So yeah, I think that's really where my concern lies. I don't know. Tell me if you think I'm wrong here. I don't really see much that should break the game for the Pittsburgh Steelers offense against this defense. Like, I just, like, maybe George Pickens just gets off, but I kind of like the matchup if you get Martin on him. I think Martin's length and physicality will do well. And we saw Martin kind of hunt some of those like back shoulder fades in this game. And I think that that's a integral part of Kenny Pickett's success with George Pickens. We know about Kenny Pickett's lack of success in the middle of the field in regular season games, at least. So I imagine Jim Schwartz is going to pull up a good plan. They have the personnel to handle that. And the run game, it's not bad, but I like Najee Harris he has his own issues. He's not somebody who's going to break a bunch of long runs, doesn't have that second level burst. Jaylen Warren is kind of an unknown at this point. People like him, but I don't really know what to do with him. So am I underestimating the Steelers offense, or are you where I'm at with this matchup on that side?
It's okay for us to say, right? To talk about them this way. You want the Browns to, in the building, have appropriate fear, right? These are NFL dudes. They can make you pay. I will say I watched that first game. Najee Harris looks slow. I mean, he doesn't
no second
have
level burst. It is shocking.
It is. He's a power back anymore. That's all he's going to be. He's not going to get a second contract. So, Jaylen Warren's got some more danger to him, but again, I don't think he's quite where they want him to be, reading the football field constantly in between run lanes and stuff. He'll get some carries. He's got some bursts. So you can't let him get into open space. The thing with Pittsburgh was they had a lot of health last year. And if they didn't have the health they had last year, they were going to be in trouble at wide receiver. So this wide receiver group, Pickens made the highlight reel catch last year on Emerson. He could do that at any time. But I like Emerson against him. That's the type of guy he matches up well with. And I don't fear that matchup at all. He might get one or two, but not enough to break that game open, and not enough that you can't commit some answers to him, right? So I'm not really that afraid of it. Deontay Johnson, to be completely honest, has cooked Denzel through his career. He's given him fits every year he's been in the league. So I don't think Denzel's going to miss him playing in this one. So that's a big loss for them. I think Freiermuth, I was watching him. I spent some time today watching Pittsburgh in general. Moving really slow. I just didn't think he was. I thought he got dinged up a little bit, but I didn't think he was moving very well. And again, like I get it. It's just watching one tape and not knowing what he looks like. But I just didn't think he's moving that well. So as far as a run threat, I don't fear Freiermuth all too much either. So as far as game breaking plays, they're going to have to nickel and dime their way down the field. It's Allen Robinson, it's George Pickens, and I guess you're going to play Calvin Austin a lot more in the slot. And that's not a dangerous group. You're going from Cincinnati to this one. It's pretty stark, right? So Pittsburgh's offensive line, better than it has been in years past, but still pretty inconsistent. So not totally afraid of them. The Browns should be able to put together a good game plan. But again, it's about proper respect, right? Proper preparation, and then applying the game plan that is right in front of you. So Pickett was not very good. He missed some throws he could have made. Not very good in general in week one. I think he will be better in week two, but there's going to be chances to get after him, frustrate him, and get it to turn it over again, man. So, yeah, you should have confidence, Browns fans, that the Browns get this game done in Pittsburgh. They are better. They are healthier. They should win this football game. It's just about exercising those regular season demons in Pittsburgh, right? Yeah,
my last thing with this game, and then we'll move on, is I just think that Pittsburgh's a low margin of error team, especially offensively. So this game's going to be about, hey, the Browns, don't make your own mistakes, right? Don't turn the ball over. Don't give them a wider margin of error than they have, because this is a team that is not operating on a high. Like, it reminds me of those Browns offenses last year where there's just not a high margin of error. But Jake, thank you for coming on. It's been a great time talking Browns with you. Make sure you check them out. OBR Film Breakdown podcast is on Spotify, anywhere where podcasts are available. Check out OBR on Twitch and YouTube as well. Jake, anything else to say before we go?
No, man, just always, like I say, thanks for having me on. You know, I'm a big fan, and appreciate any airtime we get together, man.
No problem.